Hello, and welcome to Mining 365. Today, we're talking with Monica Leal Crombe, the Director of Latin America and Global Mining at Tomorrow.io, where she leads expansion into the Latin American region. She has been featured in leading Latin American media outlets, including Milenio and Equilibrio con Dore Feliz, as a leading voice in weather and climate strategy. We'll be talking about Tomorrow.io and how it can help miners overcome challenging conditions. I'm Deputy Editor of Mining Magazine, Jax Jacobson. Welcome, Monica. So what is Tomorrow.io?
So Tomorrow.io, it's a weather intelligence company, and we created the weather intelligence platform to help businesses and governments and organizations better manage weather and climate-related risks. We take forecasting to the next level. We help them really understand the impact and not only provide data, but really transferring these data into insights and alerting systems that help people make better decisions. We work with companies like JetBlue, Delta, Uber, National Grid around the world to help them address these types of risks.
Fascinating. So how do weather and climate impact the mining industry and exacerbate their existing challenges?
So weather, as you might have heard, it's a word that's out there, right? We've seen how the World Economic Forum named weather and climate the #1 risk we have as humanity. We've seen how there's many organizations. There's one nonprofit called Climate Action that released a very interesting statistic that said every 18 days, there's a 1 billion event disaster related to the weather.
Wow.
So those numbers are huge, right? If we start talking about the weather in mining, we've seen how organizations throughout the world, different areas, right? South Africa, Latin America, the United States, Australia, are being affected and their operations are being disrupted by this. And we're talking about low visibility stopping their operations, lightning putting people at risk when they're going to be doing blasting. So this is increasing due to the volatility of weather and how intense these events are. And so we're here to start those conversations and helping organizations how to mitigate that weather risk in their everyday activities and how they can start implementing these new processes.
Great. So why have more mining organizations not yet adopted advanced weather technology like this?
You know, it's very surprising since mining as an industry is highly innovative, right? We see so many innovation happening in many areas, and weather is starting to become part of that conversation. When we talk about ESG goals, right? We have at the executive level, the new environmental and sustainability goals and social, but people are usually looking at the longer term. How can we decarbonize and what actions can we take by 2030? But the reality is that we need to complement that with what's happening now, today, which is more on the weather side. How can we give the teams tools so that every day they can make those tactical decisions to make sure that they're mitigating that risk? I've personally heard from some people that I've talked to that weather is costing them, depending where they are in the world and the type of mineral that they work with, 20, 30, $100 million or more in a year in disruptions based to the weather. If they had the tools to reduce this risk, they would definitely, there's a lot of savings to be had, but also have people be safer, right? And less at risk based on the weather.
Fascinating. And so what are some key ways that mining companies are already using weather intelligence technology to adapt?
So there's multiple ways that organizations are using weather intelligence, Tomorrow.io. So first and foremost, it's around safety, right? We want to make sure people are safe. A few examples, if we're talking about companies that have mines at high altitude, there's this where they need to transport people and assets up and down the mine. A lot of the times what happens is that there's very low visibility or very high winds, and they need to plan ahead. Should we, have 2,000 people waiting to go up the mine and then not being able to because there's very low visibility, or having people stuck in that access road? We do not want that. That's #1 priority, safety. Now, there's a big component to communities and the relationship these mines have with the neighboring communities. As we know, the pressure is increasing, and weather is a great way where they can start having a better relationship with the communities. We've seen, for example, with blasting. Blasting in a lot of areas in the world causes a dust cloud. And depending on where the wind is headed towards, all of this pollution or dust that's generated can be on top of the communities if the wind is heading their way. So you have people complaining in social media and really putting this relationship with the mines and the stakeholders in a very weird, confrontational way. So if they have the tools like Tomorrow.io, which some of them do, they can really plan as to when they should be blasting, what time of the day, if there's any weather anomalies, to avoid this dust cloud, not only from forming, but from getting to the communities where they're going to have a lot of trouble. That's the second option. Then the third one is obviously the continuous operation. So we've seen this in multiple areas in Brazil, in South Africa, and Canada, where we look at extreme weather events and how these events are just causing a stoppage in the operations in mines. And if we're able to help them understand what weather is going to be like and inform every stakeholder as what's going to happen, they're going to be able to better allocate the resources, so the trucks and the people and everybody at the right location at the right time to make sure that no money is wasted, people are safe, and we are achieving, the maximum operation as we were discussing.
Excellent. So mining organizations are under increasingly intense pressure to become more sustainable while maintaining high profitability. So how can they do this when the weather is intensifying?
Yeah, so to talk a little bit about that, I'll actually like to speak how we've seen this in even other industries around the globe. So we work a lot with aviation, railways, energy, the government, and I'll tell you a story. So we work with JetBlue, and JetBlue uses our technology to understand if they need to use de-icing fluid, right? So de-icing fluid is needed in very winter locations, right? But de-icing fluid is a high pollutant and it's very expensive. So if they're able to understand when do I actually need this de-icing fluid so I can continue my operation, to make sure that I'm not using it when it's not needed, so I'm polluting the environment, but I'm also saving money. And by doing this together with other activities, JetBlue is saving $50,000 a month per hub, and we work with them in multiple locations. So just as JetBlue is doing this, we're looking at different organizations around the globe that are really looking to tackle this part of weather and the sustainability, right? How can we tie it together? And this is where Tomorrow.io not only focuses on the operations component, but is how can we leverage this weather intelligence to make sure organizations are more sustainable, and back to what I was mentioning before, aligned to those long-term climate goals, and make sure their activities are aligned with every stakeholder that has that in mind.
Great. So it seems that Tomorrow.io has an upcoming space mission. So can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, so that's very exciting. That's something extremely disruptive that we're doing here at Tomorrow.io. So almost 5 billion people live outside of radar coverage. And you can imagine how bad that is. That is basically all of the ocean has no radar. Africa, Latin America, some parts of Asia are very limited in radar information. And radar is the #1 source that we need for anything related to precipitation and severe weather events. Precipitation related events like flooding is the #1 hazard that we have as human beings. So if we have limited coverage, you can imagine every forecast. I mean, let me ask you, do you trust a lot of the forecast that you receive right now in your phone? Do you see it changing a lot?
Yeah, I don't really rely on them too much.
So how can we take this forecasting to the next level, right? And this is where Tomorrow.io decided that the only way to do this is going to space. So we're bringing everything together. We're going to the source, and that's part of making more observations. So right now, the way that forecasting is designed is built not for the operational every minute to minute or hourly update. It's more on the longer term. And so what we're doing is bringing the sources that currently exist that probably provide data every 3 days. We are building this constellation of radars, satellites, and microsounders that are going to be capturing information one time every hour in every place of the world. So especially for mining, that a lot of these places are in remote locations, we can imagine how important it is to have this information to complement the already existing one. And this is something extremely new, and we are very excited. We're going to actually start to launch the first radars next year in 2023.
Excellent. Okay, so we talk a lot about the need for mining companies to really look at their long-term sustainability. So why is it no longer an option? Why is this a must for the industry?
So sorry, I want to go ahead. I want to go back.
Okay, sure.
1 second. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so long-term sustainability is important for the mining industry. Why is it no longer an option? Why is it a must?
So the pressure is increasing from all types of stakeholders. We're seeing this from governments, from local communities, even from employees. And it is imminent that companies, now that we are seeing how volatile the weather is becoming and how it is obvious that it is one of the most important risks that we have as humanity, it is no longer an option to just wait. It is important for organizations to take action, to be proactive, and start really incorporating these types of systems to help them mitigate weather risk and impact and help them just be more of a sustainable organization. And here at Tomorrow, that's exactly what we do. We understand that every mining company, depending on where they are in the world, their type of geography, their type of operation has a different challenge. And this is exactly why we're here. We're here to partner with them to understand their specific challenges and with them build a solution that's tailored to their operation.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again to Monica Leal Crombe from tomorrow.io for speaking with us at Mining 365.
Thank you for your time.